Hey, welcome back to my channel where I'm building a RANS S21. I haven't said this in a while, but just a reminder that none of my videos are instructional videos. I'm a first-time builder and I'm just documenting my build for those that might have interest, but these should not be taken as instructional videos. In this episode, I work on my ailerons. I get them balanced, I get them attached, and then I work on some of the cable rigging. I did find an error earlier in the build when I was doing the wing with the bell crank, but I'll get into that in this video and show you what I did to correct it. And that's it. So let's jump in and work on the ailerons. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is balance the aileron, which I found on page 76 of the text manual. It's pretty easy steps. The first thing they tell you to do is to lay your aileron out. I've got my root end of the aileron over here. They say measure 14 inches at least, and you're going to put a plug in here using filler, expandable filler. And this is the area, the cavity that you're going to plug up. So you need a hose at the end of your filler can to go at least 14 inches back and to create a plug. I saw another builder, I think it was Tony, that if you put too much foam in here, it's going to expand this way and not give you enough room to get your BBs and your lead weight in there. So make sure it's at least 14 inches, and you just spray enough apparently to get a plug and not too much. So we'll see how this works. So I've measured off the 14 inches. I created a hose attachment with just some gas hose that I had laying around. I got it in there, and let's see if I can get down that tube. Well, it's blocked, so it's but what a mess this stuff is to work with. It's just sticky as all get out. I guess that's the point. So I think we've got the two plugs in, and now we'll let those dry. We'll get the lead weight in, and then we put a plug on the back end. So that's the process. Okay, I've poured the loose BBs into the end here. I've covered it up to keep them going out. So the balance point's kind of interesting, because if I get it up in the middle, it balances just about right. If I go down a little low here, it drops that way. If I go a little low here, it drops that way. So I guess the balance point is where is it going to balance when it's sitting just, so either way, if I go less, then that side drops down. If I go more, then that side drops down. So I guess the balance point is when it's on the hinge kind of in the middle position. Is it balanced? And it pretty much is. Okay, I've added the BBs. I've then filled in the second plug with the filler until it came to the end. As expected, it's come out the end. I'm going to let it dry for a day or two, and then I'll just chop it off, and we should be good with it. In attaching the aileron, it looks like there's a fair amount of hardware that goes to the attachment. You've got the bolt, which is an AN bolt, then a thin washer, then you got the bushing, then you got another thin washer, thick washer, thin washer. Then you've got the aileron bracket, and then thin washer nut. So and you got to get it all in the right order with these bushings in the middle. So it's not just a matter of putting a bolt in there and tightening it up. You got to get all this hardware lined up. And attaching the ailerons, you've got the actual attachment on page 128, but that literally just tells you how to attach it to the wing, which I've done. You can see it's kind of flapping around here. But then for hooking up this push-pull tube, there's a whole bunch of instructions. Back on 116 in the fuselage area, there's this after the wing's mounted. This starts talking about running all your cables and everything. So prior to hooking up the push-pull, you've got to have your cables adjustments done. And that also means cleaning up this mess and getting my cable runs done. So that's the research I'm going to do now and figure out my next step for getting these cables adjusted. Okay, I've got the aileron cables run, and what I've learned is that you want to separate them from all the other hoses and crap coming through. This one, if you can see, I've got my flap cable kind of tied up around this, so now I got to undo the flap cable or the aileron cable to straighten this out. So before you clamp it all in, make sure everything is separated. This one worked out okay where my my aileron cable is over on one side and everything else is coming in the other. And I'll figure out how to route it a little bit later. But to get started, you can't have these aileron cables all wrapped up around these other cables. So I'm gonna have to undo some stuff and go backwards. Okay, I've got all the cables sorted. Now it says refer to rigging and preparation for flight for rigging the tension of the cables. So I go to the rigging section, but that's all post-flight rigging. And then there's nothing in here about rigging. So I start flipping through the manual. And then on page 124, I found refer to aileron cable system installation, refer to rigging for information about cable tension and the crank tension. Well, again, not in the rigging section, so I went further into the section, and on page 146, I found rigging and preparation for flight, aileron and flap rigging. So we'll move forward from here. Okay, the first thing they've got you doing here is screwing this push-pull tube onto the rod end, which is here. I'm not sure if you can see it, 10 turns. I put a little mark on the rod end and then swiveled it 10 times. And then the same thing here is you attach this end, and these nuts are loose right now, and you give that 10 turns to get that on. Okay, the next step they take is just secure the control stick in neutral position and secure it tightly. I just used 3 zip ties to the frame on both sides, and now it's secure there. There's probably a better idea, but that's what I came up with. Okay, then it says to turn the turnbuckles to minimize the slack in the cable. So I've minimized all 3 with the turnbuckles. And then they want you to line up this bell crank and put a 1/4 bolt up here, which I've got a 1/4 AN4 16A, which should be a good size. But it looks like this is going to have to get reamed out. It's not going to take it. So I got to ream out that to 1/4 and then get my bolt up into the bell crank and in the neutral position. Okay, the AN4 16 was not long enough to lock in the bell crank. So I went to Home Depot and I got 1/4-inch bolts. These are 2.5 inches. And the 2.5 inches is just long enough for it to get through. Remember, I had to ream this out to 1/4, and then I just took a couple turns on this, locked it in, and the bell crank is now locked in positions. The next step is to attach the rod end to the aileron, and then measure the gap in here to determine the bushing length. And they show the bolts coming in from the outside. And they also show that the bushing is on the outside. So the measurement is with the rod end pushed to the inboard side. And then they say to subtract 1/16 of an inch because there's a thick washer that goes in here also. So it'll be this measurement minus 1/16 of an inch, and then cut the bushing to that length. Well, part of my content is to include mistakes that I make, and hopefully others can learn from it. So what I've found, and I'm not sure how serious this is going to be, is with this bell crank assembly, you have the push-pull tube rod ends. See them spinning around, and that goes to the push-pull tube. In the neutral position, my push-pull tube does not go far enough out that way. And as I look at the placement of this, on the other side, this rod end is on the aft side of the center point, not the top side. And there is no hole on the other side. So I'm assuming that this bell crank is upside down. I've got to do some research. I went back and looked at the manual. Oh, I don't have it on the, oh yeah, I do. I've got it on the manual, and it doesn't talk about an orientation one side or the other. But clearly, this is in the wrong position. So I'm hoping I can just undo this, flip the bell crank over, drop it down, and I'm good to go without having to remove my top skin. That would be a pain. So we'll see. I've got the other side done per the videos I was showing you. Now this side's going to be another story. So we'll see what happens. Okay, after further examination, the male rod end was actually in this hole rather than the forward or the aft hole. And so it didn't involve flipping this over. It just involved taking this male rod end and moving it, here, where we go, here, moving it from this hole to this one, and then everything fit fine. With everything still locked in place, the bolts in the bottom of the belt cranks and the control stick locked in place, you tighten or adjust the turnbuckles, one up top, two here, until you get to 20-25 pounds of pressure on each of the different cables. And you measure the pressure halfway up on this one for these, and then I would imagine up here for the center one. After the tension is set, the next thing is the safety tie. And they give you 4 different methods. They said RANS uses the single wrap method. And there's 3 of the buckles you've got to tie. And in here, I think I've got this, I'll use the single wrap method through the middle and twist it. So I think that's safety tied. Then it talks about setting the deflection for each of the ailerons. So I'm going to measure and do that. So what I did is I put a clamp on it just to get it dead nuts flush. I reset to 0. By the time I came over here, it's 0.1, but we're plus or minus 2 on the up, 2 full. So, and then as I go full up on the stop, I'm at 27.8. So I'm up a little, about 3 degrees too much. So I'm going to adjust the stop just a little bit. And then on the down, I'm at 13.5, so I can go a little bit more on the down. So we'll adjust it just a little bit. So on the up, I'm at the bolt that goes in for the setting is just a little too long. It actually bottoms out against the other bolt coming this way, and I need to get it just a little bit more in. So I'm going to take like 1/8 of an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch off the end of this bolt so that I can set it in just a little tighter. The last check is to measure your gap between the wing and the wingtip. Where's my measurement? Well, I can't really see it, but that's the concept. So you need 0.13 inches here, which is 3.3 millimeters, and 0.2 here, which is 5.5 millimeters, and that's the final measurement and test. Okay, good place to stop. One control surface down, a couple more to go. That section took me 26.1 hours, brings my build to date to 1589.7 hours to date. I do have some more content that I've backed up on and just had a backlog of content, so I may try and get another video out before I leave for Oshkosh. I'm already seeing videos of planes coming in and landing. I saw the first RANS S21 come in. Mike DeMuth, I guess, has a beautiful looking trike, and he's in there as a volunteer, so I hope to see him there. But leaving it in a few days, and with that, thanks for watching, and remember, dream it, just build it.